Hello everyone, this is The Last Word and I'm Maria Shakil. Startling revelations have been made after an income tax crackdown on top NGOs as per an Indian Express report. The report cites income tax claims to say that NGOs like Oxfam, Center for Policy Research, Environics Trust, that is the ET, and other such trusts received foreign funding that influenced their activities in India. But instead of following their objective as stated, they used the funds for carrying out protests and litigations which stalled economic and development projects of India. The Income Tax Department also claims that 5 NGOs are interconnected and that their key figures are interlinked. Though the NGOs in question have denied their associations, but the IT claims have certainly set the cat among the pigeons, raising questions of need for greater regulation and also saying that did these NGOs actually stall the India growth story? Joining me on the show, Jayant Krishna, Senior Fellow of Strategic and International Studies, CISSD, US. We have Sanjay Asher, Senior Partner, Crawford, Bailey and Company. Aman Chugh is Financial Markets and Economic Guru expert. We are also being joined by Sandhya Ravi Krishna. But Sanjay Asher, coming to you, let me ask a direct question. Are these NGOs responsible, or were they trying to really stall the India growth story?
In my view, yes. For a simple reason, why would they unnecessarily put their nose into what the large groups are doing for the purpose of economic development? Why are they trying to stall, which is not their objective? Or they're using the money for purposes other than the objectives for which they have been given permission. So, having regard to the facts and circumstances, I would say that yes, they are trying to stall or they're trying to slow down the economic progress of the country.
Similar question. There are these development projects which are needed for India. We have been talking about the entire, the fact that industrialized nations have used coal for years to fuel their economies. India has also made strong commitments to renewable energy, and we are seeing India make great strides in that direction. But what is being done here is also some kind of narrative setting. Do you think these NGOs, which are now, their larger role is being revealed as per the claims by the Income Tax Department, should explain what exactly are they doing if they are not talking about their stated objectives, agendas?
Yes, very much. That is what the reports reveal.
Yes.
That whatever is their stated objective, the funds which have come into the country are not being used for the purposes of the stated objectives.
Okay, Jayant Krishna, will you please take that question as well?
Yeah, so, I fundamentally believe, we need to go deeper. That, what is, see, because not all these NGOs or Section 8 companies which are being talked about, they are not fly-by-night operators, right? I mean, some of them are very, very responsible set of entities. So we have to figure out why this allegation has been made. Is it that, if they're writing against or taking up legal cases against, Adani and JSW and all that, is it driven by or funded by the rival business competition, or it has some political backing? Then it is definitely wrong. It's not done. It will directly stall the economic development of the country, But if, the opposition to their projects is on account of environmental issues or, issues like, for example, how are they displacing how are they settling the displaced community, or, the technologies they're using, it has some negatives or a backlash of that, then we need to go deeper, kind of a thing. So I think it's very important to figure out their motivation, because I do not know all of them, but at least some of them, like CPR, they've been very, very credible people, I mean, people like Dr. Manmohan Singh, YV, Chandrachud, BG, Varghese, they are the people who have been there on their boards, governing boards. And even the current lot of governing board has people like Sham Saran, Subodh Bhargav, Vinita Bali, Meenakshi Gopinath. They are the very, very credible people. So I really don't understand, why should they be doing anything like that at all? Although this report is more directed at Oxfam, from whatever little I've been able to understand through the Indian Express article that you are referring to.
But Jayant Krishna, since you're talking about that these are not fly-by-night operators, these are established NGOs, but because the Income Tax Department is making these claims, I'm going to give you one example. As per this report, Oxfam India, for instance, on its website has listed an objective by saying that Oxfam India believes in the power of people. It goes on to talk about, that it works among the Dalits, Muslims, informal sector workers, Adivasis, especially women and girls, have safe, violence-free lives with freedom to speak their mind, equal opportunities to realize their rights, and a discrimination-free future. That's their stated objective. But Oxfam India, as per the claims, is working in collaboration with Oxfam Australia to stall a mining project of a company in Australia, an Indian company which is working in Australia, which is trying to delist them in Australia. So what is their stated objective, which is actually, are they supposed to be doing what they're doing then?
So on the face of it, Maria, no, they're not supposed to be doing it. It doesn't gel with the stated, mission and vision for of the NGO that they have laid down. So it's not. So then, I mean, it's for them to answer that. Why they're doing what they're doing. But other things which are there in the report, like, there are cross holdings, one person has a holding in some other NGO out of these top 5, or they're talking about, under FCRA, 75% of the funding is from foreign sources. So these things by themselves are not wrong. There's nothing wrong in it, So that's the reason I am saying, one would have to go deeper and figure out what their motivation is. And if their acts are funded or supported by the rival business groups or companies, or they have any political backing, then they're definitely wrong, and we should do the law should do whatever it takes to to settle issues with them. But I think just on the face of it, and as I said earlier, if there are some valid reasons why they're opposing it, then one has to go deeper into those reasons. And then there are different codes, there are different machineries in the country. They have to look into, if at all. I have no idea whatsoever. If at all there are issues like environment or community settlement, or some negative technologies getting deployed and all that, I wouldn't know that at all. But one has to understand why what they're doing and why are they doing it.
Actually, I agree with you. I mean, the larger motivation is still not clear. But Aman Chuk, come in on this, because Jayant Krishna talked about those NGOs, their fundings and their primary figures or key figures being interlinked, being interconnected. Is that really a crime?
So Namaskar, see, these are all, I think I would put it this way, many state actors acting on the behalf of deep state mafia has been doing these rounds for quite many years. A lot of funds coming into India in the form of earlier P notes into markets, then Hawala, let us say, coming from GCC countries, then in the name of, in a shadow image, this FCRA was also introduced so that legally the money could flow from westernized deep state mafia into creating ruckus in terms of on the face of religion, region, maybe caste, maybe language divide. So these all things have been coming, and in fact, it's a whole state machinery. One person prints an article in maybe a USA or a China, and then suddenly there is some press conference coming into Indian economy, and then there are PILs being formed, then some agitations coming up. The recent one being the Samsung agitation, which is currently going on in the southern part of India. What I mean to share is, talking about maybe some of the NGOs would be speaking in terms of on environmental perspective. We have to be very clear that for the last so many years, still India did not have its own satellite to identify the various resources which it had. There was no such request coming by. In the recent times, since the satellite have been identifying a lot of minerals, resources in India, etc., because earlier we were all dependent upon the Western satellites to identify the minerals, and they used to loot their various economies through their agenda, propaganda in terms of destroying the democracy through capitalism or communism. And we all know that extreme end of communism is nothing but capitalism, and extreme end of capitalism is nothing but communism. So what I mean to share is that this is again deep state sponsored mafia through the NGOs. They have been triggering down the money in deep belts to create a divide and the ruckus in the Indian economy. And particularly targeting Adani and the Adani-group is nothing but because Indian economy is growing thanks to the backbone of the MNCs, global MNCs formed from Indian economy. So they would not want that the economic model which is backed by the Indian homegrown MNCs establishes. And that's why this whole ruckus has been also created in terms of sometimes Hindenburg report coming against Adani, sometimes the NGOs operating against Adani. Even last 2 years back, if you do remember, Qatar Investment Authority had bought some stake in Deutsche, and they had given some absurd statement about the Adani bonds being issued in the market, and suddenly the bonds were having no value, zero value, all of a sudden, I think 1.5, 2 years back. So this is all a propaganda which has been sponsored by the deep state, and I'm sure you all would be knowing that deep state is also getting divided. One state actor was Mr. George Soros. He's been, what I understand is maybe what I understand, the economic policies, etc. There has been some sort of divide coming in the deep state mafia as well.
Let me bring in Sandhya Ravi Shankar as well, someone who has put out an exhaustive report. Welcome on this show, Sandhya. My question is that what is becoming clear through this report in Indian Express is that it is not just their protests that they have funded. It's about that entire taking it a step further with litigation. And in litigation, it's not about just whether the court, whether these petitions are accepted by the court or not. It's about creating that chaos. It's about creating that confusion that there's something amiss. So creating the doubt in the minds of the people.
You're absolutely right, Maria, because as you can see, even after Oxfam lost its FCRA registration, it could not get foreign funding. What the modus operandi of Oxfam was to ask their foreign funders to put money into hand-picked NGOs who had FCRA registration, and then Oxfam formed a bunch of private companies, for-profit companies, which would then sort of oversee the expenditure as well as the projects undertaken by these smaller NGOs, which were very pliant because they needed foreign funding. So this is the model that Oxfam has followed. This is according to the exclusive CBI FIR that we had put out earlier today. And it's quite mind-boggling. And if you look at some of the data that the CBI FIR refers to, there are so many individual foreign donors who have donated exact amounts of 20,000 rupees. So imagine they're donating in dollars, but when you convert it, it lands up as exactly 20,000 rupees. And many of these have been done on the same day. So, something really is amiss here, and, definitely a deeper probe, a deeper, thorough investigation is warranted. And as Aman said, there is definitely a deep state hand at play. And Maria, remember the Sterlite Thoothukudi violence in 2018, which killed 17 people. That particular violent protest too has all the hallmarks of foreign funding being behind it. So it's gone way beyond just small protests or funding small tribals or whatever. It's gone way beyond that, and it's high time we put a stop to it.
But there were several several NGOs which were their FCRA was cancelled. The licenses were cancelled. But there appears to be their, reincarnation in terms of how they are funding some other NGOs. So there are these puppet NGOs about which this report talks about. How does it actually function then?
So these puppet NGOs get funding from, because they still have their FCRA registration, they get funding from the foreign funders who originally funded Oxfam, for example. So Oxfam tells the foreign funders, put money into these puppet NGOs, and then Oxfam forms for-profit companies, and these for-profit companies are onboarded with the puppet NGOs, and they act as consultants. So they sort of oversee the projects, they oversee the expenditure, and they ensure that the agenda, the original agenda of Oxfam, the original agenda for which the money is being put in by the foreign entities, this is carried out in letter and spirit by the puppet NGOs. So this is a finding in the CBI's FIR, Maria.
Okay. Jayant Krishna, the UPA government, after being in power for 6 years, had amended provisions of the foreign contribution, and which essentially meant that the law enforcing agencies will get more power, they'll get more teeth in terms of ensuring that these influential NGOs function in the spaces they're supposed to be functioning in terms of their stated agendas and objectives. But then in the last 7-8 years, we have seen more focus on them and their role somehow becoming more grey. What has played out and why is it turning out to be so grey recently?
So, Maria, clearly, if these NGOs, these or any NGO for that matter, if it is acting not in sync with their stated bylaws, bylaw becomes a legal document because that you have to file while you are registering it as a not-for-profit company or as a under the Societies Registration Act. If what they're doing is not in sync with the bylaws and the stated objectives and the mission and vision of the organization, I think the government should definitely take a punitive action against them. That there is absolutely no doubt at all. And also let me add, if any of the NGOs, these 5 or any other NGO for that matter, if they have opposed industrial development and economic growth of the country for the sake of it, with no rhyme or reason and no valid justification for doing so, I think they should be taken to task. There's no doubt at all. But I would refrain from making a very outrageous comment that yes, all that they're doing is wrong. So I think one has to go deeper. I have not had an opportunity to study this or their fund flow or whatever it is. But as long as there is a valid reason, one should go into it that what those reasons are. Otherwise, very clearly, nobody has a right to, oppose, the growth of the economy through industrial development. That's intrinsically wrong, and any violation of FCRA is an act of crime. Very clearly, if anybody has done it, or if some workarounds are found, of funneling money through other routes, even if one is blacklisted under FCRA or the account has been frozen. I think illegal workarounds are wrong, and the law let the law of the land take its course.
Yes, absolutely. When it's about development projects of the country, why should they be stalled by these NGOs or they have conspired? Then there is a need for investigation. But Sanjay Asher, come in on this. Irregulations, violation of law is one side of it and perhaps the most important part of this story. But there is the other side. When there is crackdown against these NGOs, then there is that larger concern which is raised by a lot of us, is about freedom of speech, expression, civil rights, right to dissent. And then where is the duplicity at play here?
Well, there is no duplicity in that sense. There are central agencies which have gone into the details of what these activities of these NGOs are. Now, if there is a fact-finding report, whether it is of CBI or if any other responsible media house, in relation to that they are in breach of FCRA, they are in breach of their bylaws, etc., or that they have something to do with income tax, then obviously one has to respect the central agency's prima facie findings that yes, they are hampering the economic growth, that they are in breach of FCRA or income tax or their own bylaws. So, to my mind, at the moment, of course, one can always do a deep dive or one can always do a deep investigation. But at the moment, what I see is that on the basis of whatever reports of CBI are, whatever responsible media house have reported, one has to respect that.
All right, point taken here. Thank you so much for your time, Jayant Krishna, Sanjay Asher Manchug, and Sandhya Ravi Shankar. Joining me now is former Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar. Mr. Javadekar, I appreciate your time. You know, this is a question to a former Environment Minister. When we are looking at this report and of course the IT department's claims, targeting of coal projects which are related to Indian companies at a time when India has committed to weaning out coal energy use. Do you see this as a larger attempt to stall India's energy sufficiency goals?
Madam, it is not about only coal, about steel, about any development, nuclear projects or anything. Nuclear is not environmentally safe, but still what happened in Tamil Nadu is an example of how NGOs and how they get funded. So this is nothing but a conspiracy, because these organizations, they used to come to me sometimes. So I used to tell them that, do you do the same agitations or same court cases in America, in Europe, in other countries? No. Then why you are doing only in India? Because there is a conspiracy to stop the progress of, and unfortunately, you will recall that Rahul Gandhi opposed the POXO investment. It was 1 lakh crore investment coming to India. But they stopped it on the pretext of some tribal concerns. But actually, tribals want progress. Tribal want employment. Tribal want new life. And they don't want to stay always in the condition in which they are living now. So their condition to be better, you need progress and industries. And therefore, in the name of jungle, in the name of environment, in the name of tribals, they create a bogey and then approach the court. And in court, let me tell you, they report in their annual report that we stopped this project. This is their achievement. We stopped this project. And when we went into details, we got to know that they can incur 5 crore, 10 crore expenditure also on court cases so that they can stop some projects. Because best of the best lawyers आप रखोगे, दुनिया के उदाहरण दिखा के कुछ भी बाकी के reports मिलते रहते हैं, तो वो बता के that is what they do, and therefore it's very dangerous.
Prakash, you made a point that you have dealt with them in the sense that when you were part of the government, you were aware of what they were up to. In the last few years, we have seen the government of India cancel licenses of many NGOs, but they continue to function through proxy NGOs. Then how long will this continue? What can you do?
This is a real challenge for Indian law agencies and Indian court system and Indian as an administration also. We have this challenge that anything you take decision in India, immediately people find out the way out. This is, in a way, sometimes I think it has become a habit, because such malpractices were never punished. Now they must be punished. So why NGOs are up and angry against present government? Because they're all malpractices have been stopped. Their funding has been stopped. Like in Kashmir, it is nothing different from that. That all pathrav, stone throwing, has stopped because the money links have been snatched away. All the financial support and everything has been dismantled. And therefore, that has impacted. No stone throwing in Kashmir now. This is the same stone throwing mentality that stop progress of India, and therefore we need to navigate from here on in a very nice way, and more importantly, media like you and others should also enlighten people about the designs. I always say, from government side also, there are government officers in Konkan area when we were in opposition. There was a nuclear project given, but that nuclear project, proper information and first information should have been told to people how it will benefit them, but that was not told. So these NGOs came and created so much misinformation and so much rumors that everybody went against the project. And therefore, all nuclear projects also are suffering because of this.
Okay.
So that communication has to be also proper from government side.
All right, Prakash Javadekar, former Environment Minister, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts. That's all from me. The entire discussion on ndtv.com.